Okay, welcome to In-Depth Prayer. I am your host, Rabbi David Katz. Is everybody with me? Hello. All right. Where is that? We're in the prayer book, the Siddur. And there's two holidays in the Shmona Esrei that we pray about. So va'al hanisim, va'al ha'porkan, va'al ha'gvuris, va'al ha'chuas, va'al ha'niflaus, sha'asita lavaseno b'yamim ha'hem b'zman hazeh. On the miracles, and on the porkan, whatever porkan is, and on the gvurot, whatever the gvurot are, and on the salvations, and on the wonders that he did for our forefathers in the days, in those days, and in these today. And we're not going to get into the gvurot. So the only other thing we didn't translate was the porkan. Let me get my other safer. I want to translate. Get this over with the correct thing here. All right. This is Torah from Cape Town, by the way. I got this when I was in Cape Town. Jock, this is for you. The question is, which parsha did we do in Cape Town? Okay, here we go. So we did Vayera in Cape Town. Hold on 1 second. So in Ben Ish Chai, Parshas Vayera, he's quoting Exodus 8:19. And the word is pedut. Pedut. So let's go into 8:19 in the Exodus. Exodus 8:19, Exodus 8:19, Exodus 8:19, Exodus 8:19. If you look up the word pedut, in the translation of pedut, porkan. So the verse goes, I will place my pedut between my people, between your people, and tomorrow this sign will be. All right, so a pedut, we don't know what a pedut is. I'll place my pedut. And the translation is porkan. So it's a division, right? How do you show division? Remember the four-house theory, gentlemen? Four houses. Hello? 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. So the four houses, the reason why it's written so stark, it's to show that there's an absolute division between Cohen, Levi, Israel, Ger, and basically Akum. So it's the language of redemption, that God gives a redemption out of Egypt. What happened when we left Egypt? They're effectively, the Bnei Israel and Gerim went out of Egypt, type 1. So now you have, for the very first time in history, something called Akum, and something called Ger, and something called Bnei Israel. Then you get to Sinai, and you have now the covenant of Cohen, Levi, Israel, and the greater covenant with Gerim. So that we see that in redemption, the commentary says, Va'al ha'porkan, va'al ha'tzola v'yeshua, on the success and salvation, va'yif greinu mitzarenu. All right. Targum Onkelos uparak Hashem. The salvation is parak. So the porkan is the salvation. Which doesn't make sense because we say the miracles on the salvation, the gevuras, like the strengths, and the salvations. Why don't we repeat salvation twice? There's a lot of answers why it could be. But where I want to go with this, and this may be a short class this week, is that we are waiting for the final redemption. Is that true? Yes, it is. We're waiting for the final redemption. And redemption is Porkan. So I will place my division between my people, your people, and tomorrow it'll be a sign, right? So that we're asking for Hashem to bring the final Porkan. So at Hanukkah, there was a Porkan. At Purim, there was a Porkan, ostensibly. Every redemption, there's a Porkan. A division. Now, everyone thinks that we want unity, Achdus, which sounds about right. We want to love our fellow man. We want to be united, sing Kumbaya a little bit. And when we get into the Ger message, everyone's upset that it number one, they'll say it blurs the lines. But really what they're upset about is it's the opposite of blurring the lines. It draws the lines extremely distinctly clear. Type 1, if you know what I'm talking about. Jacques, it's you. Painfully so are the lines drawn clear. And no one likes that. And when they say it blurs the lines that they had in their head that were not correct. Almost like if I were to say that rugby and American football are basically the same thing, right? Rugby and American football are basically the same thing. Is that a true statement? The answer is no. Cricket and baseball are pretty much the same sport. No, they're not. So everyone in the world says, you know what? Baseball and cricket's the same sport. Rabbi Katz comes along and shows how they're radically different sports. So I blurred the lines in your head, but we drew distinctly clear lines between what is cricket, what is baseball. Then people say, that's too confusing. I like it when they're all the same. You got a bat and a ball. But we call them different. Cricket and baseball are just different, but we don't know why. So the Porkan is the concept that really makes distinction clear. Clear distinctions. So at Hanukkah, it was a Porkan. It was a Porkan. And then in Egypt, we saw there was a Porkan. So we're waiting for the Porkan, the final Porkan, when everyone will be distinct and clear. Again, ostensibly, there would be Cohen, Levi, Israel, Ger, and the whole world would become Ger. Then we say in the time of the future, we don't accept converts. Jacques, does that make sense to you why that is? Of course it does now. We don't make converts in the future. But the temple will be there. So what will be the reality of Ger, the fourth house of Israel, Ger in the future? Very good question. That's a real good question. And that we wait to see with the coming of the Messiah. But we already know that Ger and Mary within the fourth Kahal Ger. So, anyways, this is a short class today. Again, in your sitter for the Purim and Hanukkah, you pray on the Porkan. Actually, it is both because it's the preceding message before you go into Hanukkah and Purim. And that's the Iker of redemption. I mean that word most literally. The Iker of redemption is the Porkan. So we can see the Ger message is very much Geuladik, since it stresses the Porkan, 1 or 2. That's how you know when it's a real redemption message. That it's a Porkan, and yet it stresses unity. But there has to be distinctions and clarity for there to be unity. Otherwise, you have vulgarity and blurred lines that you try to convince yourself are not blurred lines. McDonald's and Burger King are the same thing practically. Type 1. McDonald's and Burger King are practically the same thing. Type 1. Exactly. You type 2. Why? If you were to go and do an analysis on Burger King and McDonald's, you would find out, number 1, they're not the same. Number 2, you would ruin that paradigm in people's heads. Number 3, you would find and draw absolute distinctions. I am a dumb American, And I think that Johannesburg and Cape Town are basically the same thing because it's all in South Africa, which is just one big same thing. Type 1. It's all just South Africa. Johannesburg and Cape Town are just the same thing. What do you think, Jacques? Same thing. The answer is no, no, no. They are not the same thing. Universes apart. Right, Justin? Nebraska and New York City are the same thing. It's all America. It's all America. Right? It's all America. You're all Americans to me. You all have the same accent on the TV show. So then you'll say, no, New York and Nebraska are different. And I say, no, they're actually quite different. You know, you get into the geologist, right? They're both on two tectonic plates that if there was an earthquake, Nebraska would actually be on one continent and then New York would be on another. I just made that up. But you can understand if that was true, and I taught that, people would be saying, I'm confusing things. It's all one country in America, and da-da-da-dee, right? So true wisdom brings out the ability to do true Porkan. And that's the message of prayer today. So when you see in the the davening or learning for holidays, we're looking for the Porkan. How do you find Mashiach and redemption? Look for the Porkan. And Porkan means the distinction between two things, two peoples. All right, not much to say about it, but I think it's a very potent idea, concept. Pardon me, but I'm going to wait one more week till we get back into Mishlei. So with that said, see you for Dinner Thursday. I just need to look into Mishlei a little deeper because we got to figure out what we're doing there. But anyways, Porkan, that's the message of in-depth prayer. Thank you. See you on Thursday.